It is here right at 10:10 a.m. It appears we do have a quorum, so I do call this May 8th, 2024 meeting of the Industrial Development Board to order. Public comment period. The Industrial Development Board holds a public comment period at each meeting. Members of the public in attendance may provide comments to the board or its committees during such designated time. Members of the public are allotted 2 minutes for public comment. No advance registration is required. All right, so moving on to, so let me pause. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak? All right, seeing as how there is no one here from the public wishing to speak, we will move to close the public comment period. Moving on to item number 3, approval of prior meeting minutes from the March 13th, 2024 meeting. I will give everyone a brief moment to review those.
Just have a quick question on the minutes. The grant, the Tennessee Economic Development Grant, what was that for? What company? Was that for the city? Was that for a company?
No, it's a state pass-through. They had actually been to us before. It's located in Donaldson. Yeah, we should probably put that on here.
I wasn't at the meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, they're in Donaldson. They came by before us. They're in the IT field.
August Bioservice.
August Bioservice. Thank you. Yeah,
okay.
They came before us a couple years ago, and then they exceeded their job grants, the amount of jobs, and so this was additional funding from the state. But again, no money from Metro. It was all from the state, but obviously with the way it works, it has to come through the IDB, then we have to fund it to them.
Right, so we just need to update the minutes noting that it was for the company and the company name.
Yep, so where do you want that stated? You just want to state where it says Chair Hodge explained this is a state pass-through grant for August Bioservices with that?
Wherever it makes sense. We just need the company name.
All right, do you want to make a motion with that?
Make a motion that we add the company name from the meeting minutes for March 13th regarding the Tennessee Economic Development Grant, because it doesn't indicate who the grant was for.
All right. Do we have a second? All right, so we have a proper motion. We have a second. Any discussion on the minutes? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay. All right, motion carried. Please let the record show that the chair abstained. Moving on to item number 4, ad hoc committee. Last at the March meeting, we had Jamari Brown give us an update with some key statistics that the mayor's office is seeing in the workforce. So great meeting. We certainly want to have Dr. Day also come speak to us. We had to, just due to timing, move that. Today we had Ron Thompson with the Urban League, Vice President of Urban League and Vice President with the Amazon Red Academy, which is the Real Estate Development Academy that's funded currently by Amazon. He gave us an update on their program. They just finished their first graduating class, and now they have their second cohort. So I thought it was a great discussion, and I appreciate Board Member Channel and Board Member Wright for their comments. So we're certainly it certainly fits in with what we're doing, small business, wanting to do more with small business. And there were some initiatives that came about that I think this board can do with the program to partner up and try to move forward. So I would certainly encourage you, if you have time, to take a look at that video if you weren't here for that meeting. Item number 5 on the agenda, annual Metro Incentive Grant Payouts approval. So I will get a second to get clear here. You all were sent the packet. So again, these are the annual Metro Incentive Grant, so we're not here to approve the actual grant. The Phillips grant was actually approved back in 2017. I know because I guess I'm a dinosaur on this board now. I was the only person on the board when that initially came to us. Again, Philip, and they have a representative here, so I'll let them give a quick background on the company. what we're charged with today is voting on the payout. So if that should be approved today, that would then be paid with Metro's next fiscal year, the budget, which starts July 1. In the packet, what you saw was the third-party audit report as well. And that's for jobs, qualifying jobs as of the end of December. So as of December 31st, 2023. And again, those have to be audited by a third-party auditor, and also Metro Finance has to review that as well. And again, for Phillips, this is year 5 of 7. So when this deal was initially approved, it's a 7-year deal, $500 per employee. And the reason why, again, just recap, because it's been a year since this came up before us. The reason why these are coming now is that when that grant was initially approved, the companies don't necessarily immediately have to start the clock on the jobs grant. So that's why there's a lag there, and you'll see that with the next one as well. However, once they do start the clock, if they don't meet the jobs metric, they just forfeit for that year. So there's no years 1, 2, 3, and then, we take a break for a couple years. Once the clock starts, it's continuous. So for Phillips, this is year 5 of 7. So we have a representative. Sure, you want to share some more?
Sure. I was just going to give a quick overview and then turn it over to
Thank you, Jamar.
Representative from Phillips. As Chair said, back in 2017, Phillips Holdings announced a major investment in Nashville. And with that investment, they were creating a center of excellence that is going to feature key business functions such as commercial operations, customer service operations, finance, HR, information technology, marketing, procurement, all of this to kind of create several hubs around the world, and Nashville being one of those as a center of excellence for the company. As the chair mentioned, the grant started in 2019. We're in year 5 of 7, and today they're asking for you all to approve their amount of $293,000 for their current headcount as of December 31st of last year. And I'll turn it over to my colleague here, who's going to give you even more detail and a readout of their report.
Thank you, Chairman and members. I'm Brad Lampley, a partner of the Nashville firm of Adams and Reese, and counsel to Phillips. And proud to say I've been counsel to Phillips since day one in 2017. Just very quickly, and I'll keep it brief because I know Chair Hodge would prefer not to hear me go on and on about the company and their story, but it is a good one to tell. Phillips was the first out-of-town company to really plant its flag in Nashville and say this is where we want to be and this is where we want to set up headquarters and bring hundreds of employees here from around the country, and that's what they've done. They did it on the heels of the Pred Stanley Cup run. They got all the excitement, and been a lot of companies that have followed suit since then, but I'm proud to say that Phillips was really kind of the first one to get going. Could not have done it at the time without the assistance of a rock star on behalf of the state Economic Community Development Department named Jamari Brown. And so I like to say we knew Jamari back when, before he became the complete star that he is now. But he was instrumental in helping us get that here, as well as Mayor Berry and her team were just sensational. It really came down between the Nashville area and Atlanta. Phillips already had a major presence in Atlanta. They had several hundred employees there. The hockey arena in Atlanta, the basketball arena where the Hawks play, was called Phillips Arena at the time. And so Nashville was in a way a little bit of an underdog, but thanks to the hard work of everybody from Metro Council to the mayor to the state, we got it done, and they came here. And they've come here and they've delivered. They really visualize themselves and really try to kind of consider themselves very much a Nashville company, a Tennessee company. They're partnering with the state currently on some issues that are hugely important to them, particularly maternal health and women that live in maternal health deserts more than an hour away from perhaps the nearest OBGYN and so forth. And so they're doing a lot of things with remote patient monitoring and so forth for expecting moms that are really just kind of cutting edge around the world. They have transformed a block of downtown. The old Bank of America building is now Phillips Plaza. That building went from being basically not that full at all to now it's completely full, and Phillips has got a big presence in that building, so that's been very exciting. The numbers are the most important thing. Currently they have, as of this report, the year-end report, 586 jobs. 60% are female. I'm proud to say, by the way, that of that, there's another 40 that are open that they're actively trying to hire for, and there's another 100 coming because they're going to move some jobs from Atlanta up here to Nashville. I think this market has been that popular with them, and so Nashville's going to be the beneficiary of a lot of that. So there'll be another 100. This time next year, will be even more jobs to report. Proud to say 33% of the jobs are filled by diverse persons, including 27% African American. 48% of the employees in Nashville are from Davidson County. The next highest county is Rutherford, which I believe has got 14, and 75% of their leadership team are women. 75%. They really, I think have tried to deliver in so many ways. And I can get you, by the way, salary information if the committee would like, and happy to do that down the road. In terms of their commitment to the community and where they're trying to get their workforce from, they really go out of their way to target graduates of TSU and Lipscomb and Trevecca Nazarene and others. They're also big time emphasis on recruiting veterans, and so they do a lot of outreach at Fort Campbell. And they also go out of their way to try to target graduates from UT and MTSU. 63% of their interns that they've got this year are from Tennessee colleges and universities. So they're really taking Tennessee residents, hiring them, and then trying to replenish their workforce with more Tennessee residents, which I think is exactly what we all had in mind when they were looking at coming here. In terms of, okay, great, what are you doing in the community? Each Phillips employee gets 32 paid volunteer hours to go out and do good in the community. 32 of them, fully paid. And so most recently,
my math, that's 4 days, right?
That's a big
4 work.
4 work days. That's exactly right. Most recently, they had a group, what they call their Future Leaders and Rising Employees group, that went out to Schwab Elementary to read to over 100 kindergartners and elementary school students. They are a proud sponsor of the Museum of African American Music through their Black Employee Resource Group. Also, I mentioned the veteran piece. They are a big sponsor of Operation Stand Down Tennessee, and they, in addition, have been very involved in the Nashville Heart Walk. And it's not just, again, an out-of-town company. It brings in out-of-town people that do not understand, this area and don't really have a vested interest in it. Their North American CEO, Jeff DeLulo, is a graduate of the Haslam College of Business at UT, lives in Nashville. His daughter is a former UT athlete. I had to get that plug in since I'm the parent of a UT athlete as well. But she is also in the Army now, and so she's an officer candidate school out in San Diego right now. But Jeff is, as I mentioned, a full Nashville guy, and he's even you'll see him at Steeplechase on Saturday. So that's how Phillips has become completely ingrained in the community. And again, as I said, a Tennessee and Nashville company that prides itself in being that. So.
I appreciate the presentation. Yeah, a lot of good things I heard, especially percentages. I think I might have missed one percentage. What is the percentage of the staff that is from Davidson County?
So that is, of the current group, it is, as of year end, it's 48%.
48%?
48%.
Okay, thank you.
And then I guess the next highest county is Rutherford with 14, and then
Right, I heard
everybody else.
14%, yeah, I missed it.
48.
And that information is in your packet.
Yeah, I was trying to read through and find it real quick. Yeah.
One more page.
One more
Right here.
Oh, okay, I was getting to it. Okay.
We know it might take you a little
Yeah, you know I'm a little slow. Yeah, I'm a little slow. My
I
glasses
noticed
on,
I didn't say anything.
But thank you, though.
Absolutely.
And I would just say to that, that was something that, and just to be clear, Phillips, I just want to make that clear, Phillips doesn't have to provide this information. Go back several years ago when they came before us, that was one of the questions that the board wanted to ask is like, where are your employees coming from? Because this is Metro money. This is a Metro grant. And I can say throughout the years, they've been very consistent at that, around that 50% number. Which I would think makes sense because you're saying you actively really try to recruit from the local universities.
And that started when they first announced. I mean, they had 2 job fairs, I believe, out at TSU, and so that it started then, and they continue that right into this day.
Very good.
Any other questions or comments?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll go to my left. Any questions or comments?
Not on Phillips.
Okay. All right, so I have Metro Finance here. All right, is from the Metro Finance, has everything been reviewed, the audit reports, jobs qualified, everything good from that reviewing from Metro Finance?
Yes, Rhonda, the finance manager, was not able to be here today, but she did review everything and it was in order. So we're good to process payment upon board approval and final budget approval anytime after July 1st.
Yep. All right, Metro Legal, Lexi, from a legal perspective, any concerns or issues that the board needs to be aware of regarding this?
We've reviewed it, and if the board is so inclined, we're good to approve.
All right, so with that said, I will entertain a motion to approve the payout. And again, the motion, if you do make a motion, it does need to be for the exact amount. Please include that in the motion of $293,000 for the annual payout to Phillips.
Make a motion that we pay out the $293,000 to Phillips.
Okay, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much for that second. Board Member Rodriguez, any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, motion carried. Please let the record show that the chair abstained. Thank you. We look
Thank you,
forward to
Chairman,
having you
members.
back in here more. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
All right, moving on to the next Metro incentive grant. We have Alliance Bernstein. Again, I think I'm the only person that was on the board when that one was approved. That one was approved in the spring of 2019. I do recall around that time we did have my board member Davis was then council person, and I remember I invited him to come talk to our board about the Do Better bill. So Alliance Bernstein, I'll let them give you some background, but obviously they have their facility headquarters at 5th and Broad. Investment banking firm. They relocated from New York, and I know several years ago when your previous COO, Jim Gingrich, would come to our meetings, I remember him saying how much they had exceeded expectations for hiring at that time. But again, this was approved in 2019, so same thing. We're not here to approve the actual incentive grant. This is the annual payout. And this is year one for Alliance Bernstein. And again, as I shared before, while there's sometimes a lag from when the actual grant is approved and then the actual payout. But again, this is jobs as of December 31st, 2023. Alliance Bernstein is also unique because they were the first company to come under the Do Better bill. And our esteemed colleague was one of the lead sponsors on that. So I know it's been several years, but
A long time.
I thought it'd be beneficial, kind of give some quick background on why what was going on at the time, why that was so important. And I have it, pulled up so I can talk to some of the specifics, but obviously that was something you were very passionate about and came to our board and spoke about several years ago when you were a council member.
Sure. You want me to do that before the Alliance goes? Do Better, it was, at that time, we had done a lot of the ECD deals through council, through different mayors. I think there was just an appetite for a little bit more reporting. We knew we couldn't require much just because of the state of Tennessee wasn't going to allow us to enforce a lot of things, but we really just were looking for more information. So basically, it was politically maybe a little more complicated, but it was a simple ordinance in that we weren't asking for too much. Alliance Bernstein and Amazon ended up being the first two companies that actually complied with it. We passed the bill at the beginning of 18. And as you just heard, they came on during 2019. But simple things like how many jobs, would they be bringing? What would be sort of the pay level of those jobs, and benefits, that sort of thing. Would they be doing any apprenticeships, anything like that? Had the company had any OSHA violations? A lot of these deals don't have anything to do with construction or anything, but we had done Bridgestone, which did have a little bit of a construction element. So we tried to include information about the jobs if it was just a jobs grant through the ECD office, or information about the jobs if there was some sort of a building or construction element to it. So just more transparency and a little bit of reporting following up on when we did these grants through the ECD department. So in the past it was
Overwhelming support.
Yeah, we built a lot of consensus behind it, and Alliance Bernstein was a great first partner to test that and just do the reporting we were asking. So they've been a good partner all these years. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, and one thing, just because I remember this came up 5 years ago too, is as part of this the Do Better bill, one of the key items on here is there's certain reports that the companies have to provide to Metro as well. And there's some language in here because this grant, just like Phillips grant, when it was approved back in 2019, it's a 7-year grant. And so in the event that the company doesn't comply under the Do Better bill, the Metro Council does have the ability with 21 votes to terminate the agreement. Doesn't mean they will, but they have the ability to. And so that was something that came up before. Jamari, as if I recall, I think this was like the first meeting when we were introduced to you when we approved this deal back in April 2019. Anything you want to chime in on the backstory with this one or background with Alliance Bernstein?
I've got remarks and I'll just go through and I'll turn it over to the team from AB. So yes, back in 19, or actually 18, we started conversations with the Alliance Bernstein's team and their site selection consulting group. One of the unique things about site selection consulting, it's done pretty broad in the approach that companies take when they're trying to identify a future home for themselves. And I will say this, Alliance Bernstein challenged the city of Nashville, the state of Tennessee, unlike any other company. And the way they challenged us was they were intentional about finding a home, not just for their corporate C-suite individuals, but for every single member that had the potential of relocating out of New York. They wanted to make sure everyone found a home, whether that was a BIPOC person or a Hispanic person or a Hindu person. And during the course of about a couple of weeks, we had the opportunity to take several of their leadership team around Nashville and stop in all the mosques, the churches, the synagogues, and really take a time to understand the different pockets of Nashville so that their team members could find home, and also because they cherished a very diverse workforce. They understand the benefits of doing that. And so this was the first time Nashville really was challenged in that way in doing a recruitment opportunity. And so really kudos to them for changing the way Nashville looks at itself and presents itself back then. Getting to today, obviously we were able to lure them here. They've created quite a splash. Very nice building that has their name on it, not necessarily their construction, but the building that has their name on it. And obviously everyone has had an opportunity to cherish in Fifth and Broad, and whether that's dinner or going to the museum as well. Project again came in 2018. This is their corporate headquarters. As the chair mentioned, this is the first year of their grant start date. This runs until December 2030, December 31st, 2030, year 1 of 7, and the amount that they're going to be requesting for approval today is $513 and $500 for their current head count as of December of last year. And I will turn it over to the COO, Carl, to provide some remarks.
Great. So I've got some prepared remarks, but happy to answer any questions that you have. So I'm the COO.
Real quick, will you both introduce yourselves first?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm Carl Sprules. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Alliance Bernstein.
Paul Emerson, Corporate Counsel.
Yeah, so I've been with Alliance Bernstein 26 years. I was part of the team that was on the bus, traveling around all the various different counties. Thank you for meeting with us today. The grant was a factor in our decision in making the move here, and it's an important part of how we think about developing talent going forward. Maybe I'll give you a quick overview for Alliance Bernstein for those of you who don't know too much about us. So we're an investment management and research firm. We're global. We have offices in 27 countries. We have 54 different offices, and we have about, just over 4,700 employees. Our clients are generally the sort of most sophisticated global investors. So it would be governments, sovereign wealth funds, high net worth individuals, and they entrust us to manage just over $700 billion. We were founded in New York and based in New York for more than 50 years. And I moved to Nashville in 2018, and we established our head office here in July of 21. As you can imagine, relocating was a pretty big decision for us. You stole some of my thunder. I was going to give a list of the things that we did before we moved, but we spent a lot of time. We met with civic, non-profit, academic, faith, and business leaders to understand whether this was a place that we could call home. And when we thought about picking a home, there were really 4 things that came to mind. The first thing is we wanted a deep and diverse talent pool. right? The people we don't make things, right? We make decisions for people, so the people are our most important asset. We wanted a community that would welcome us and where we thought our employees could thrive. We wanted a city where we thought we could aspire to be an employer of choice, right? We wanted to be the name that people wanted to work for. And we wanted a population who we thought our culture would resonate with. And to give you like the stripped down version of what our culture is, we tend to find smart, intellectually curious people who want to win together as a team, right? If you look at the people who work for us, that's the kind of, they all sort of fit into that mold. So where are we now? So we at this point we employ more than 1,000 people here. The process of hiring, training, operating in parallel, and then ultimately transferring the responsibilities of each of those 1,000 people went in line with our plan. Of the employees we've hired in Nashville, 24% have been identified as top talent, and that number's consistent with what we were seeing in New York. We've been able to retain our top talent here, so 94% of our what we describe as top talent, we managed to retain 94% in 23, and although we're not even halfway through 24, that statistic is trending higher. However, it is important to acknowledge that it's increasingly competitive. The labour market here is getting increasingly competitive, and this grant will help us continue to train and develop Nashvillians to be able to have careers in finance and technology here in Nashville. When we last presented to the IDB, which was my predecessor, Jim, actually 2 predecessors ago, Jim Gingrich, he outlined the 4 dimensions of what we said we would do when we came to Nashville. So he talked about meaningful job creation, developing the Nashville talent pool, investment in downtown, and a commitment to the broader Nashville community. So let me give you an update on all 4 of those. So as I mentioned, we have 1,000 people. The types of roles they do are sales, marketing, legal, compliance, audit, finance, technology, operations, wealth management, and human capital. So a whole range of functions. When we decided to move here, our goal was to move the head office, not some satellite office. So it's a full range of functions. Over 75% of our employees live in Davidson County. I live in Davidson County. Paul lives in Davidson County. Right. We both love it. We were just chatting to a gentleman outside and talking about how much we enjoy living in Nashville. Additionally, 100% of AB's employees are paid more than the Nashville median annual wage. And AB's median annual wage is more than twice that of the Nashville median wage. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, sort of people are the centre of everything we do. They're the centre of the success of our firm. And we're invested in training and building the Nashville talent pool. We've done this through on-the-job training. We've done this with partnerships like the Software School, and the Nashville Technology Council, and local universities. We're committed to being an employer of choice for all Nashvillians, so whether that's people of colour or women. We've built partnerships with local HBCUs and minority student groups. We've done that to enhance our talent pipeline and to give people who wouldn't normally have an opportunity to work at Alliance Bernstein that opportunity. We've made progress hiring women and people of colour, but it's definitely an area where we need to do more. So our current employee population is made up of 33% women and 30% people of colour, and our executive team is 26% women and 14% people of colour. On point 3, we believe that a vibrant city needs a vibrant and growing downtown. We've invested over $80 million in the global headquarters that we have there at the 5th and Broadway Centre, where we're an anchor tenant. It was our commitment to that project that as an anchor tenant that allowed it to move forward, and we managed to make that move forward even through all the difficulties that the COVID pandemic brought. And the 5th and Broadway, I think, has brought some pretty wonderful things to lower downtown, right? It's our office tower, it's brought the residential tower, the African American Music Museum, Assembly Food Hall, all of the shopping that's connected to it. And then look, lastly, I think this idea of us being a good neighbour, Since 2019, AB has donated over $6 million into the local community. Our employees have donated a further $1 million, and we've put more than 5,000 hours into local charities, and we have over 100 of our employees serving on various non-profit boards. So thank you for the opportunity to present. We've had what we think has been a wonderful welcome, a wonderfully warm welcome. We've been impressed. All the things that made us make the decision of coming here have sort of come true. We're honoured that you guys have made a commitment to us, and we know the responsibility that you talked about earlier. We need to follow the rules, and we're committed to doing that. So I'll stop there and see if you have any questions.
All right, I'll stop there and appreciate just on one thing on the county of residence piece. I remember that was a big question again from the board members, and I was one of those that questioned that. And I remember your previous COO said they were very intentional, so a lot of folks from your C-suite were intentional about moving into Davidson County. So I would say that part is strong,
Yeah.
really high.
Yes, I think if you look at our C-suite, I think almost all of our C-suite is living in Davidson.
Yeah, which leads to the Davidson County high percentage for sure. Obviously, I'm pretty familiar with you all, but I'll turn it over to my board members. I'll start here to my left. Board Member Rodriguez, any questions or comments for AB?
I believe just for due diligence, the OSHA violation that was put in the package here was for Alliance Bernstein, correct?
Yes, so
Yeah.
they can talk about
It was for Layton.
late construction.
Late, and of course
Yeah.
you guys, and I don't really expect you guys to know about all that, you guys contracting out. But the only thing with that would be, was it reported to you guys whenever it happened?
It
or
was
how long?
after
After?
Yeah, after they built. So Layton were hired to do the construction inside of our office. The OSHA violation happened after they completed construction, so it wasn't part of our project. So that's sort of out of the scope of what we can really speak to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how long was it for the time before it was reported? Like a
It was
report
It
or?
was 2023, wasn't it?
The violation was in December of '21.
Mhm.
They finished construction and we moved into the building in July of '21, so they didn't report to us.
Nothing, gotcha. All right, just for due diligence, I know it's way down
They
there.
reported to us ahead of this meeting.
Right, but it was not connected to our project.
It was not connected to our project and it wasn't concurrent with our construction.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything further? All right. All right. Board Member Chandler, any questions or comments for AB?
No.
All right. Come back to you, Board Member Wright.
Everything looks great. Thanks for making Nashville your home.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
No, I had a similar OSHA question, but thanks for clarifying. And I mean, I think it's good to have that. That's the kind of information we want out there in the public,
Yeah.
just for that contractor, even if it wasn't on your job. And yeah, I think the amount in Davidson is really good. The jobs are. You guys have always been really strong on the job, pay numbers. So, hate to say it's easy to exceed those medians for you, but I mean, it's not easy for any company to do that. So you guys have done it really well the whole time. And even I like your chart comparing to in that field, like if it's a legal job, you're pretty much in the 90th percentile on
Yes.
pay structures.
Yeah,
and that.
I think we supplied that to you, right, which was each
Yeah.
of the roles.
Yeah, which was great in that report. So, yeah, thank you for all of the complying, going above and beyond, with the do better reporting and just, great to see the presence you guys have in Nashville has been tremendous since the beginning. So, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So, a couple questions for me as you talk a little bit more about anything you're doing in the community or community partnerships that you all have.
Yeah, I mean, where do you want to start? So,
I'll let you take it where you want to go.
yeah, so, well, maybe let's talk about, what do we use some of this money for, right? So I was trying to highlight that the landscape of hiring in Nashville is getting harder and harder, right? And if you look at some of the announcements over the last few weeks, it's only going to continue to get harder. So, much of the grant is spent on trying to find pathways for people who wouldn't necessarily have an opportunity to work at Alliance Bernstein, to give them an opportunity to work at Alliance Bernstein, right? So if you think about when we were in New York City, any of the jobs that we listed in the report we gave you, we could put out a rec for those jobs and get people who have done that before, gone to 4-year universities, maybe have extended education. In Nashville, what we've been trying to do is find ways to bring people who have different educational pathways in, right? So whether it's a partnership we have with the software school, where we've taken on probably 20 different students who have gone through their career retraining program. Even after their career retraining program, they come to us and they would need at least another year to be able to fit into our team. So that would be an area where the grant would help us fund through that process. We're super active members of the Nashville Technology Council. Technology is a part of pretty much every role that we have, but it's becoming increasingly a part of every role that the folks who are coming to Nashville are going to want in their labor force. And Nashville won't work if it's a zero-sum game, right? If Oracle show up and hire all our folks, and then someone shows up and hires all of Oracle's folks. So this idea of a partnership with the Nashville Technology Council is about making sure that there's STEM education in high schools, that every high school student gets the chance to graduate with at least some computer science experience, with at least some data and analytics experience, because those are going to be the reading and writing skills of tomorrow. The $5 million that we've put into the community, we've focused that on reading and early development, and we've sponsored programs at the library. We've tried to be out there and tried to really focus our dollars around giving people more pathways into jobs like the ones we brought here.
Thank you, and obviously housing as well. You made a connection today, right?
Yes, that was
a pretty cool program.
That was a really cool program
with affordable housing. So
yeah,
maybe next year you'll come back. No pressure, obviously, but we might hear something about a new partnership.
Yes, that would be
all right. Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? All right, Metro.
Comment. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to make it. Thank you for your presentation. You just said some things that just sparked some thoughts, and also a recent meeting where actually Jim Gingrich was at that meeting. But for us as a body, as we consider how we play it in Nashville, we're at that intersection where we can help corporations like you connect with the nonprofit partners that are working on workforce development. We're at the intersection, the board, where we can help corporations like you connect with entities that might be preparing subcontractors for construction for other partners that may come here and have to build. And I think we can do a better job at that. Thanks for the reminder, Anthony, about the Do Better bill. But what was interesting too was, Nigel, when you said, great data from Alliance Bernstein, but they don't have to give that to us.
I think I said for Phillips.
From Phillips, right,
Yeah,
they didn't have to give it to us because it was
required to do
before
that.
the Do Better
That's
bill.
right.
But even without that bill and adding on to it, I think when we get new deals coming forward in the future, we can make sure those deals have those requirements coming to us above and beyond the Do Better bill if necessary, and make sure those reports are coming to us when we come to approve the grants or whatever it is that they're coming afterwards. Because how will the council know how well our corporations are doing as being good corporate citizens here unless we provide that information, unless we receive that information? So thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, no,
And going forward,
we're an
I
open
think-
book. We want to be successful, and we want to help other people go through the process and be successful. So if there's information we can give you to help us and help others, we're happy to share.
And then my final comment, I mean, the reality is, as we continue to talk about housing, more and more people are moving out of Davidson County.
Yeah.
So we're paying jobs grants for Davidson County residents that may no longer be Davidson County residents. So we're at that right intersection point. We're at that point with Nashville's growth as a board, but we can help make those connections for our local residents, particularly those who don't have access to jobs and housing, that may be connected with a nonprofit partner that we can help our corporations connect to help our local residents. So I'll get off my soapbox on there.
Thank you for those comments. I appreciate it. Any other questions or comments from my fellow colleagues? All right, as it specifically relates to this grant, again, this is the annual incentives, which would be year one for Alliance Bernstein. Metro Finance, obviously we got the information report, but just want to make sure, so everything's been reviewed with the third-party audit report that the company provided, confirming that the jobs are qualified jobs and the amount is correct that they're requesting.
Yes, they were reviewed, everything appeared to be in order, and we're prepared to process payment upon board approval and final budget approval after July 1st.
All right, Metro Legal, Lexi, from your standpoint, is everything in order from a legal perspective?
Yeah, we reviewed everything. We didn't have any concerns, so if the board is so inclined to approve, you can do so.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion from the board. Please include, if you do want to make a motion, please include the exact amount requested for this year, which would be $513,500.
I make a motion to approve the payment of $513,500
To Alliance.
to Alliance.
Oh, Bernstein.
Alliance Bernstein, sorry.
All right.
So
we
his
have-
name's in there.
We have a motion by Board Member Wright, and we have a second by Board Member Davis, proper second. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. All right, motion carried. Please let the record show that the chair abstained. Thank you. All right, we appreciate it. Look forward to having you back. Thank you.
Very much. Thanks for your time this morning.
All right, moving on to item number 6, update on previous revenue bonds. Cumberland Heights Foundation. Thank you, Corbin, while you get settled and go over the document. We had a document that came before us. This came before the board back in March. We just had enough for a quorum, which is good, but this came before us obviously in February initially. This is for the Recovery House in West Nashville. The board approved the final inducement resolution at the March meeting. And I want to thank Board Member Davis in his role as secretary, because after it was approved, both of us had to go sign execute the documents downtown. Not easy place to get to. But that did close, which Corbin will talk about. And just very quickly, I was able to attend the groundbreaking ceremony that they had last month. Really excited. So they're kicking and going with construction. So as they came to us, if you recall, in February, they said they want to start breaking ground this spring on construction. So really beautiful area. Again, it's off the beaten path, but just gorgeous out there. A lot of windy roads to get there, but great event. They're really excited. I got a chance to talk to some of the representatives from Cumberland Housing. They were, again, grateful that we approved the bond deal. And once they finish this building, there's potential that they would come back before us in the future for construction of another building. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Corbin, to kind of just high-level run through this closing document now that bond did close.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to the board. Good to see you as always. First, congratulations on closing your first bond issuance in some time. So the form you have in front of you is the report on debt obligation. This form is the form that goes to the Tennessee Comptroller of the Treasury. This is the last document that is within the procedural course of a bond transaction. So this document is similar to the IRS 8038 form that we submit to the IRS, which lays out all the material terms of the bond transaction. So you see with this form, going through it real quickly, just says the entity's name, the par amount of the debt, the interest type that's on there, the tax status, whether it's tax exempt or taxable, the security, type of sale, public versus private, goes into the purpose of the bonds, which was, of course, not in the offered category. So we chose other, goes to the cost of issuance and professionals. And I know the cost of issuance and fees have always been, a hot topic with the IDB. So what we want to do is always be transparent and show you guys each and everything that goes on with these transactions.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, just
Sure.
so you know. Jamari emailed us that, but we don't have it right now.
Yeah, I was trying to find.
So thank you for going through
saw
it.
it.
That's why you heard us over here.
Yeah,
talking.
everybody's flipping
Sorry.
papers over here. I'm like, okay,
I apologize. I thought I just saw that.
I'm not the
Yeah.
only one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
No,
a,
thank you for going over it. Just
Yeah,
a little
sure.
slower.
I will slow down. My apologies. So we get to the cost of issuance. So it lays out all the professionals that were involved, the fees that were paid to the professionals and to the issuer. And it also lays out the amortization schedule for the bonds. This bond, it's only one bond, a private placement. It matures in 2031. So it lays out the principal amounts of that amortization schedule, and it will be a variable rate interest rate. On the
and Corbin,
last,
just to clarify too, there's nothing the board needs to vote on. This is information today
Information
to
only.
go over.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's nothing that we have to vote on.
Okay, cool.
Yep. As far as the, and then it just goes down the submission details and signatures between me, I signed, and of course Chair Hart signed as well. And as I said previously, this is the last item for the bond transcript. I know that in the past, the IDB has not had the best, record keeping. So, working with, Lexi, Jamari, and Josh, we wanted to improve the IDB's repository of files and records. So we will, by request, if the board wants to ever see any documents with this or any other transaction that the board does, you are more than able and entitled to do that. Just email Jamari. We're trying to keep everything in an iCloud or shared space, I believe. So just to make it easy access, and that way if we ever need to go back and refer to anything, it can be 1 or 2 clicks away rather than 30 or 40 phone calls, emails, and everything else.
Are we ultimately looking to make those public as well? No,
Oh, well, these are all public, so
right,
this.
but easy to find.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Easy search. For sure. So I just wanted to go through this form with you all. Whenever a transaction is closed, this is, again, the form that is filed with the state, and it is public record, so. But, for the future, we'll likely just take care of it administratively, but you guys, again, will always be informed about it and always will know and have access to it. So, Mr. Chair, that is all I have for the update with Cumberland Heights.
Yeah, that's awesome. Again, I just want to say thank you to our carpenter firm, certainly Metro Legal, and also ECD. Again, last year obviously we went through a period of transition. There's been a lot of transition at the Metro level. That's just happens at times, but during that period I went to, even actually before Jamari came on board, I went to you and Charles and Metro Legal and said, hey, can you guys work to really put a bond application and work on our processes together? Obviously it'll be a board decision, but I need you guys to take the leadway. I didn't know that Cumberland Housing was coming. I didn't know TSU was coming. I didn't know Dominion, but.
And neither did I, for the record.
That's right. But we certainly just, we want to be in a position for these types of projects. And again, we talk about housing and what we're trying to do. This Cumberland Housing Facility for people that are dealing with addiction, hopefully going to that program and going to that place, having a better facility, for the people they serve. Those are the people that will be coming back into society, continuing to work, and being productive citizens. So I don't recall that we've ever done a bond. We haven't done tons of bond deals anyway, but in my 9 years on the board, I don't think we've done a bond deal like this for a group like that, Recovery House. So I think this is a really great project. So anyway, and thank you all to the board, obviously, for going through it. So really excited. And lastly, last point I'll make on that, again, the Cumberland team was very grateful when I talked to them at their groundbreaking ceremony a couple of weeks ago. They'll certainly, I think they're looking at probably 2 years or so, 18 months to 24 months until the building gets finished. But they said they would absolutely love to have us back for the groundbreaking ceremony. So we'll make sure that through Jamari, we'll get that information just like for the groundbreaking Jamari did. We'll make sure that they let us know about the grand opening. So you'll attend before you know it, 18 months or 24 or 2 years will be here and it'll be finished. So really exciting. So thank you, everybody. All right. Moving on to item number 7, final authorizing bond resolution, NDIC Corporation Project 1 LLC, Tennessee State University Student Housing Project. Again, just quick background reminder on this one. Summary, this came before the board back in February. This board did approve the inducement resolution at that time. Obviously, again, it just takes some time for all the documents to potentially be completed. Again, for today, similar to what we did in March for Cumberland, this board will consider the substantially completed final and potentially finalize the authorizing bond resolution. Then if the actual bond, after this, the bond would have to still close. If that should close, then myself and the secretary would have to execute those documents, obviously after our legal counsel has approved. With that, before we get into the details, Corbin, on these documents, I'll turn it over. I think we have the developer who was here before. Yes, do you want to make
a point of order
Sure.
real quickly with the agenda and for the record? The borrower's name is actually NDIC TSU Project 1 LLC.
Okay.
So just want to correct that for the record. I just noticed that.
Thank you, and I will thank you for that. And before we get into the details of the bond, what we're doing today, because it's been a couple of months, I'll turn it over to Odie.
Mr. Otis Jones from Cobblestone Development
Your
and Consulting,
Cobblestone
LLC.
and your team, and kind of give us maybe not as much detail as before, but kind of high level. How many? I think there's 700 beds, but kind of high level and the relationship with TSU. Because just to be clear, TSU is not the borrower in this case. Obviously, the housing is for TSU, but I'll turn it over to you and just introduce yourself again for us, please.
Thank you, thank you. So, I'm Otis Jones. I'm the founder of Cobblestone Development and Consulting. Also to our P3 partner on this transaction, who is the borrower, by the way, is Ty Logan, and he's here, and then Bill is here as well. Bill was here last time with NDIC. We're effectively partnering with NDIC. NDIC is the borrower, and they're the ones who is charged per their statutory, IRS requirements to lessen the burden of government. In this instance, the government that burden has been lessened is obviously TSU and the students who need a place to stay. We've been engaged with NDIC to develop with our design build team, which is ACOM Hunt is the construction team, and LJC Architect out of Chicago is our architecture, and then also to Mesro Financial is our placement agent on the transaction. We've been engaged as a team to design and build 719 beds in partnership with the House of God Church. As you probably know, TSU is sort of landlocked, so in order to be able to get some space to build, we entered into a lease agreement, a land lease agreement with the House of God Church, and we've been working in collaboration with them to bring the project forward. And so that's an overview of where we come from and where we are, and we're happy to take any questions you all may have of us.
So before I turn
I
over,
should say too, Chair.
Oh yeah.
This is first phase of the project.
Yep.
And, we know we got a second phase. The second phase is going to take more of a public participatory process because the first phase already had the entitlements by right. The second phase, we're going to have to go through a little process to, we've got some rezoning issues, and we've been working closely with the council person from that district, as well as the community. We did have a couple of meetings with the community to talk about the second phase and what the expectations are, but that's going to be a little longer process.
and for today, we're only concerned about the first phase,
Yes.
phase one. Okay. So, a couple questions. So, one, just to confirm, so this is about 7/10 of a mile from campus, correct?
Yeah,
so?
actually, it's the property that we're developing is adjacent to the university's property.
Okay.
And so, in fact, the university has some dorms here, and then we're like right next to it.
Okay.
I'm
sorry, it's 0.7 acres. Excuse me. That's where I'm getting the 7 from.
Okay, yes.
I'm like, man, my mind, I'm like, I know I saw 7, so it's 0.7 acres.
Yes, sir.
And then talk to us about timelines on when, should the bonds be approved today? And then obviously you still have to close. Talk about when you want to break ground and completion and all that.
Yes, sir. So we currently right now, one of the reasons why we've asked the board to consider a private placement is because we've identified a team that we've been working with, we've had a long-standing relationship with, to acquire the bonds. And our plan right now is to close on the bonds on May 30th, I'm sorry, May 30th. And then began to, we've achieved getting a clearing and grading permit and the other permits, so we're going to start, actually, the plan is to start moving dirt in June.
And then when you anticipate construction being complete?
It's going to start probably in the fall with the plan is to have an 18-month construction period, so the Guarantee Max, the contract we have, delivers the project in July of '26, and then we'll be working closely with the university and making sure students get leased up and all their things that need to be done is done. So it's an 20-month construction process. And, so everybody's excited about it. We've got a good plan.
Yep, thank you for that. And one item that point out to the board that you did not have when you all came in February that we got in our packet was the feasibility study for the project and high level and I'll let you chime in if there's anything you want to share with the board. What stood out to me on that feasibility study was just how much of demand and need there is for the housing. And I know the report mentioned as well that there's some current housing at TSU that's 50 or 60 that was built in the 50s and 60s that also at some point needs to be demolished, that can't be demolished right now because of the need is so great. So it's kind of consistent with what we're seeing housing everywhere, the great demand for it. All right, well, anything else you want to point out to us, because we didn't have that feasibility study back in February that stands out, or that you want to share with the board members?
No, I just want to tell y'all thanks, and we really appreciate, collaboration with you all. So we're ready to answer any questions you all might have of us.
Yeah, and the last thing on me, talk to us, so you have an agreement, so this housing is for student housing. And so talk to us about the agreement you have with because you have an agreement with TSU to give TSU like first come, first served basis for their students.
Yes, sir. And but also too, it's anticipated that students from both Harry and also to Fisk, which are adjacent universities, will also be able to take part too. So you'll note in the market study that was done, it kind of took a look at what the demand of all the student housing is in that area. But this is a primary facility where TSU will be working closely with us to fill first, getting their students in place, and then after that, if there's any other rooms available, then we would, allow the other students from both Fisk and Meharry, if you want to take advantage of it, to be a part of it as well.
Yep, and the students would be leasing not from TSU, that would be?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. Yep. Awesome. Let me turn over to my colleagues then. I would say for now, if you have any questions about the development or for the developer before we get into the actual bond documents. Okay. I'll start with you, board member Wright.
Yeah, thanks again. I was trying to go back to some figure of the last meeting. On the ground lease, I was looking through here. What is the length of time on that lease?
We've got two ground leases, sir.
Okay.
And one of the length of times of leases for 50, correct me if I'm wrong.
60
years.
Okay.
And with the House of God, and then the other ground lease is for 99 years.
Okay, 99 years.
There's a private party who has a lease as well. We have a lease with too as well.
Okay. Let's see. So it's pretty aggressive timeline on construction. 18 months to get it done.
Sir, we've been working for a while.
Okay. It's permanent.
Yeah, this has been. We've been at this now for
almost 2 years.
almost 2 years.
Yeah, so I know how delays go in construction, so when you said 18 months, I was like, okay, yeah. I hope you can get it done. Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for you.
The biggest thing for us was getting, obviously, permits, right?
Right,
So,
yeah, you get permits, okay.
Once we got the by right permit, the by right permit is always the hardest slope.
Yes.
So the rest of it is just ministerial, but that by right permit was the big one, and we got that one, and that was what was important.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, board member Henning, questions or comments for the developer just on the project in general?
Yeah, I think you asked this question, but I didn't catch the clarification. Will the students rent from TSU or from?
No, they'll be renting directly from, actually from the nonprofit, which is NDIC.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, that was the same question.
Yeah,
Great
that was your
minds-
question.
Great minds think alike. Board member Davis, any question or
I think it's
comments
a
on the
great
project?
project. Yeah,
Before we get to the bond stuff.
Yeah, we've had, a couple meetings ago, we had the presentation
Yeah, they came
on this, and-
before us
yeah.
in February.
Okay, yeah, looked very familiar, so, yeah, thank you for coming back, and, yeah, we can jump into the other stuff.
Start here, board member.
Thank you.
Anyone else here? Questions, comments on the project itself? Questions, comments?
Forgive me, ignore my face, I have an emergency happening at my house, but,
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
yes, it'll work itself out. Just a quick question, I noticed in the documents, and you also mentioned it.
Yes,
Your
ma'am.
name again, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm Otis Jones.
I remember we saw you in February
Yes.
with the developer.
Cobblestone.
Cobblestone.
I'm with Cobblestone, I'm the
Perfect,
developer.
okay.
And then Ty Logan is here with NDIC, which
Okay.
is the.
I was here last time.
That was here last time.
So I'm the president for NDIC. He's one of our board members.
Awesome.
And they're actually gonna be the owners of the project.
Got it.
Okay.
And they will be, and they hire me to be the developer, through a P3 relationship we share.
Got it. So I had noticed in the documents that potentially the units could be opened up to other universities in North Nashville, Fisk and Meharry, and you just mentioned that.
Yes, ma'am.
So no, last time we heard from board of directors at TSU, we have a lot of people in the room. I'm looking forward to hear from TSU to see how they feel about that. So,
Well,
I don't know who's all back
TSU
there.
isn't here today.
Oh, okay.
They did, Dr. Glover did send a letter, which should be in your package, if you haven't received it.
It is.
But,
She also.
they
oh,
will
go
have
ahead.
first priority, TSU will be, and that's what we're building for. But in the event that there are rooms available, and rather have the rooms be vacant, then, then we would look to allow other students
Okay.
in that event. But primarily, this is a TSU project.
Okay, so I extend my apologies to you too. Jamari probably sent us that letter, email, but it's not here, and I probably didn't read it, because we got like 30 different
I
documents.
know, I feel you on this.
This is forgive me.
It's a lot. It's the end of the packet. So this is what came up, so this is what we talked about, this is the affiliation agreement, it's the
Right.
end of the packet that
Okay.
TSU has.
Right.
So,
It's an executed agreement, and
Yeah.
my apologies,
oh, you're fine.
members of the board. David Rogers at Frost Brown Todd. My colleague Blake Bars was here last time. Our client is Cobblestone. We're also bond counsel for the transaction. The affiliation agreement's executed, and actually there's an affiliation agreement and a first slight, very short First Amendment, and those are agreements that are in place. And they are legal binding, valid, and enforceable between the development group and TSU. So that's what, when we're talking about the intention of the filling it up with TSU students, following by the permission to put in students from Fisk and Meharry, that's also in the affiliation agreement.
Okay, awesome. Okay, gotcha.
And I think, I think that was something that came up before, because if we're talking about housing, we just want to make sure, obviously, that the priority is students, at least from my perspective, which is why I asked about that, for those students. But I would think the reason you can't 100% guarantee it is if hypothetically there's not enough students there, you still need to fill it up, which we don't anticipate.
Right.
Again, based on the feasibility report,
That's right.
talking about the need even out 3 years.
That's right.
And just-
Can you, sorry, you have a question again?
I wasn't
Go ahead.
finished.
Yep, go ahead. Go ahead.
So going back to, again, the beds and who will fill the beds, because we have a lot of documents. And I think I have all the ones here that mention different numbers of beds. So we got 720 beds, 155 units in one document, and then we got 1,000 apartments. So I'm just trying to understand what this particular bond is for.
So
It's
I know
for
there was
719
mention of-
beds.
For the
This is
seven,
719. It's phase one, which is 719. There's gonna be a phase two that's done in the future.
Okay.
But this one is just the first phase, which represents 790 beds, 19
Got it.
beds, I'm sorry.
so this document, the one that has 720 beds up to 155, this is just phase one.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
So help me out here. If I do the math, and I know last time there was a question as to how many students would be in each room, it was 4. So if I multiply 155, maximum times 4, that's 620 beds. So what am I missing?
No, actually, it's 719 total beds was designed.
Okay.
It's in compliance with the code. I don't have it.
You have different units,
Unit
basically,
types.
when it talks about the 155 units, ma'am. You have 3-bedroom units, 4-bedroom units, and 5 bedrooms, 5 beds per unit. So if you're just trying to do the basic math, and you just say so many students, some of those units will actually have 5 people in it versus 3 people.
Okay.
So they're different units.
Okay, wow, okay, because I remember last time it was like 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that should be in the market demand study as well. The market demand study has the different configurations of each suite, in a sense that has the different beds inside of them.
And can you give us your name again, please?
My name is Tyrone Logan.
Okay.
I'm the president for NDIC.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the owner of the facility.
Borrow that, okay.
Okay.
That's in the email, the design.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just trying to make sure that we're being, as a board, community partners with TSU. So I'm a little concerned that we don't have a TSU board member today. Everybody knows in the news that they have a new board, and Dr. Glover is outgoing.
Let me do this.
And now we have an agreement with students from other universities on a property that could potentially become market rate one day down the road, 50, 60 years, who knows?
I'd like to answer the question if I can.
Sure.
Yeah, David Rogers representing Cobblestone. We considered as legal counsel to Cobblestone, also working with Milt and Ty from NDIC, whether or not it was appropriate to try to ask any member of the board from TSU to come to this meeting.
The new board,
The new board. As you know, there is a new board, and the members who came here to your meeting in February, I was not in attendance, but I did watch the video, were members on the old board. And while there may be private conversations with members of the new board about their support for the project, there is no meeting of the new board yet. It hasn't met once. The governor will call the meeting. And since the new board has not even taken its first action, our recommendation as legal counsel was, let's not.
They have met.
Okay, if they have met, we did not get on the agenda, my apologies.
Okay.
So my recommendation was, let's not bring a member of the new board to the meeting to answer questions, because the new board hasn't really taken any legal action. The legal action that's been taken is by the old board. You've got an affiliation agreement by the old board. You have that agreement in your packet. The investors who buy the bonds will have that agreement in their packet. And in my law firm's opinion, we can give a legal opinion at closing, that agreement's valid, binding, and enforceable. And we know of no objections by members of the new board. And I can state that as a fact. We know of no objections. Mr. Jones knows of no objections by any member of the new board to the existing agreement. So the existing agreement is the one that says that NDIC TSU Project 1, as assignee of Cobblestone, is a preferred provider of student housing off campus for TSU, and that if we don't have enough students that come from TSU that want to be in the facility, then you're able to open it up to students from Fisk and Meharry. So the legal stuff is already in place. And so with due respect, blame me, but that there are no members of the TSU board here.
Oh, and I'm not blaming you, I'm just trying to make sure we understand.
Yeah.
Because all of us, or most of us, were at the February meeting where we got
Right.
the org chart of the deal. We heard from NDIC, we heard from Cobblestone, we heard from 2 TSU board members, and we might have heard from somebody else, I can't remember. That was on the org chart.
board members.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2 TSU board members, and I thought it was another block in their org chart. And I just, again, want to make sure, because we, as the IDB, which I have been talking about for the last 2 hours, we are community partners, and we sit at that intersection of the community, residents, construction, everything.
Yes, sir.
And I'm a little concerned that they have met, the new board has met.
Apologies.
It's all on the TSU website. I'm one of those people who watch things online. I didn't go.
I hear you.
They have met, there is a new board, there's an outgoing president. This need was to fulfill the need at TSU. So now by these documents, we have 2 other universities, nobody's here from there. So I just have some questions.
I'm sorry.
And concerns.
Ma'am, the deal has not changed.
Right.
It's
the same.
When you look at the agreement between us and TSU, it captures the essence of that. This is a TSU student project. There's just a provision in that agreement that TSU executed, okay? There's a small provision that says any unlikely event, right? That there happens to be any extra rooms that hasn't been filled, and there's a need from another student somewhere else, then the rooms could be made available. But this is a TSU student-led project.
And actually, your position makes perfect sense, because you're the developer, you're the lawyer for the developer, and I'm not questioning that. I understand that. And I also see that the other 2 agreements were with the TSU Board of Trustees, not the university itself.
Well, that's the legal entity.
Of course.
Yeah, the legal entity is not TSU here, Board of Trustees here. The legal entity, Lawrence Pendleton, General Counsel
Yeah.
for the Tennessee State University, who I know personally and have been to see twice previously. He helped us draft the affiliation agreement.
Awesome.
And so I'm relying on him to tell me that that affiliation agreement should be between the Board of Trustees of TSU, not list Tennessee State University and then
Got it.
the board separate. So
Got it.
that's what I relied on. I relied on Mr. Pendleton.
And that agreement, I think we have in here, was from
2023.
2023. Is it October?
I think it's late 2023, and then there's a First Amendment that was earlier this year.
Got it. Okay, so it was before you guys came to see us in February.
Before we came to you.
Awesome. Makes sense. Is Lawrence Pendleton, who I don't know, still general counsel at TSU?
He is.
I think it would have been good to have somebody from TSU here today to help us with this, considering the issues with TSU, the board, housing, it's nationwide news. I was starting to just ask questions, but now I do have a concern.
Sure.
Yeah, all right, before we go, any more questions or comments on this?
But I'll let you go.
For now? Okay.
I'm kind of piecing things here. So, NDIC, which is a nonprofit, is the actual owner.
Correct.
Of the project, owner of the building, owner of the units and the beds.
Yes, sir.
Developer. There's agreement with TSU to use the facility, but they don't have any ownerships. So will there be restricted covenants put in place?
Yeah, we have to honor the agreement the TSU board signed.
Okay, so how long are those restrictions going to be in place?
Those are going to be in place through our operating agreement with the
life of the bond.
For the life of the bond.
For the life of the bond, which is
correct.
35 years.
35 years. So after 35 years, restrictions are removed. At that time, you don't have to rent to anyone. You can actually go to market rent with your units.
So I just want to be clear.
Okay.
We're 501c3. We're
Right, very familiar.
nonprofit.
Yes.
We're a charitable organization, and this is our mission. And our mission isn't to provide housing to anyone else. Our mission isn't to provide housing for anything other than TSU. My wife is actually alumni from TSU as well. And so this is something that's been a problem for a very, very long time. And that's really the only reason why we're involved. And so our board is very much aware of this mission and the charitable mission of this. And so I don't want anything to get confused outside of our mission. It's also the tax exemption piece. If we turn this all of a sudden and decide that we want to do something different, then that impacts the tax exemption associated with it as well. And I can't, from a 501c3 standpoint of view, I will not do anything that varies from the charitable purpose and what the original intent.
And that will be part of the bond covenants as well, that you can't use it for any other purpose.
Okay, yeah, I'm very familiar with restricted covenants and deeds of trust, and just want to make sure that this 35 years, and I deal in the industry where it's 20 or 30 years, then with HUD money and things of that nature. So that timeline goes by very fast. But I want to ensure that we don't look up 35, 40 years later on, and you might not be there, someone else might be, the ED or whatnot. That now we're going to just change and do something else, which we have no control over. But I do like the fact of your commitment to keeping that in place for that, at least that length of time and maybe even more. So yeah, that was a little my concern as I started to understand how this entire package is put together.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'll come back to you. So again, thank you. Just to make sure, what's the time frame again on keeping the units where they are versus just?
For the life of the bond.
Okay, and what's the year on that?
The life of the bond is, 40 years?
Now it's 40 years.
Can it be paid early? Did the bonds be paid early? Could you sell the property?
Could we sell the property?
Yeah.
Technically, we could sell the property, but that's not.
Is that a restriction? Because I know in
But
most
there's no
restrictions.
right.
Yeah, because that's in there as well.
Yeah, but our mission, we're different. We're not, I'm not a for-profit entity.
Well, I understand. I run a nonprofit, so I understand the mission and the goals of what your organization is. But the right of, if there's not a restriction in place or a deed of trust, that gives you the ability to, let's say, if you're not there, then someone else could make, or a board make a decision to sell the property. So we want to make sure that, good question, that once it's time it does get paid off early, that boom, swap, bam, it's sold. That's just a concern of mine.
Sure.
And there's a huge market.
Yes, huge market for that.
That would not
Yes.
be students.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I do a lot of development in the area, so I understand. Yeah, that's all.
And question to tie that in. So obviously, the reason they're coming before us, this is because our board has the ability to issue the tax exempt bonds. So the interest on those by the bondholders is tax deductible. So hopefully, the developer gets a lower interest rate. We can do that. We don't do that just for any private developer that wants to do a high-rise and make a bunch of money. This fits in because it's 501c3 and it's housing, student housing. So in the event, so let's assume today if this board votes to approve tax exempt bonds, and then let's say it does, next step, it does indeed close. If at any point they sell the property or change and go to just normal market rent, or sell it, does that impact that tax exempt bond status moving forward?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the.
So they have no reason to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I need to hear, yeah.
So that impacts that tax exempt bond, which is why people come before us for these, because the interest rate's lower. That immediately would impact the interest rate.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Interest rate, the bonds, the project, their tax exempt status is the 501c3 a lot. These bond documentations have several covenants throughout that you can't change on a whim.
Right.
You know, in that sense. But go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I'm gonna say, well, I was gonna get to that when I get to my portion of it, kind of just going down. Any questions you guys have with the bond documentation, we can definitely go through that.
Yep, and I guess I would start off is what, from your
Follow up
vantage
from
point.
your question?
Yeah,
You said
go
the
ahead.
40 the bonds are 40 years. Perfect, which would make sense about you saying they would not do that, because it just doesn't make any sense, right?
Yes.
TSU is a land grant institution, so I mean, it's been around since the late 1800s, right? So again, please forgive me. I was hoping that we would see somebody from TSU again, since we had them here before, because this is about their need for housing, right? So in 40 years from now, I'm thinking that TSU has a plan to make sure their students are housed 40 years from now as well. So I just throw that out there.
And I'm
I'm not
thinking,
having to
Army,
hear from TSU itself today.
the 40 years really, I'm sorry, the bond actually probably covers what I'm thinking about when I think about the deed of trust and restricted covenants. In lieu of that, this bond is going to be in place, which basically does the same thing. It's a trigger. Because even with a deed of trust or restricted covenant, you can sell, but then everything comes back. That grant turns back into a loan. You lose your tax exemption. You lose the tax, forbearance of the property or whatever. So everything it's not in your best interest.
It's not. For the 40 years.
Yeah, for the
That's,
40
I think
years.
for
Now,
us,
after 40
to
years,
everybody's point.
Yeah, after 40 years.
If we're thinking about wanting certainty about 45 or 50 years from now,
right?
I don't know. That doesn't sound like that. Like if we
No, I don't
want to
think
move
we can.
forward this,
Yeah,
it's
we can
40
look that
years
far,
is
yeah.
the window.
Yeah, we can't really go past that point. I'm
My
just focusing about
certainty
40.
is making sure TSU students get housing.
Right.
Because what happened
That's
at our February meeting, what was said, I think it was by a board member, was that half the cost for the students is housing, and that should not be. And I remember also saying that once this agreement was done, that TSU would list this property as being a preferred location, because it's not a TSU property.
That's right.
TSU's not getting any revenues from it, so TSU can't make TSU students rent there, right? TSU has to make a decision to say, hey, you can pay over here and live over here.
Correct.
Right? So my concern primarily is making sure that us, as a board, as community partners here in Davidson County, make sure TSU students are housed.
Right.
So if TSU, the current board, who has had a meeting and is not here today, I have some concerns to make sure that there's still a true partnership. And I understand it's a legally binding agreement. I get that. And I understand your interest is to make sure that legally binding agreement continue. I understand your mission as well, yours as well, is making sure the students get housed. I get that as a nonprofit. But I'm just saying, just putting it out there now, if we're not hearing from TSU today, we heard from them before, they have a new board, they've had a board meeting, I have some concerns.
Fair.
But go ahead,
Fair
go
point.
ahead, please,
Ty,
Sam.
I will mention
You have
that,
a point on that.
Ty, the affiliation agreement does provide for regular meetings between NDIC as the owner, TSU Project One, and TSU to talk about the process and how things are going. Clearly, the 501c3 is not going to control what the TSU Board of Directors decides to do for the next 40 years with respect to student housing.
Right.
But it's not like, do it today, 40 years from now, TSU will find out, what they want to do, or tell this 501c3 owner what they want to do. So they're going to be in cooperation under the terms of that agreement during the next 40 years.
I hope so.
They'll be talking to each
It'd
other.
be good to hear from them.
But we don't have any, the group here today does not have any control over what the TSU board decides they're gonna do.
That's my point.
And I know, excuse me, Chair.
Go ahead, no, you go ahead.
I know prior to this meeting, we just met recently with TSU as well. We can meet regularly with TSU up into this. I believe we also, TSU just recently provided a letter as well to the IDB expressing their support. I believe that should be a part of your packets as well. And so we've done a lot of legwork regarding this. And TSU has, I won't speak for them, but I feel pretty confident that they've been on board with this. This has been a demand for a very, very, very long time. So I absolutely understand your concerns with that. And just, I really want to just clarify, from a dormitory standpoint of view, and if any of the things happen that you're stating, it completely changes the entire deal structure, the tax exemption, and everything else. And so if they decide that they don't want to be affiliated for some reason, that changes this entire deal structure. And right now, that's not the case, and we wouldn't move forward either.
I understand,
So,
yeah. Honestly, one of the things that made my flag go up was when I saw the agreement and it mentioned other universities. And I was like, oh, we didn't talk about that last time.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that was because of the change with the board, so, and that's why I was hoping to hear from TSU today.
It was included in the 2023 version of the document that was executed.
Oh, okay, but we didn't know that.
Right.
Right, we didn't know that until today, so.
Do you have something else you want to add on this? Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that actually, once the bonds are paid off, the project falls within their mission, but the way our agreement is structured, that it actually
Goes back to TSU.
goes back to church and TSU. As you know, the House of God Church is leasing currently to students at TSU, and that's where that property will fall. So once the bonds are paid off, it will automatically go there into that bundle of group that's currently being managed by the church and involved with the lease with TSU and the House of God.
It'll be assigned back to their 501c3, their foundation. It
Okay.
can't go from one 501c3 to some
Private
for-profit entity, the way the bonds are structured. And so
Okay.
there are a lot of stopgaps in there to really keep this from being, taking advantage of a situation or TSU. So
Yeah, I was wondering what the
I
land
agree
lease,
with your
what
counsel.
it probably would revert back to at that point, yeah.
Legally, you couldn't unwind it that way.
Lots of great discussion, right? So this board's gonna have to make some decisions here shortly. With that, Corbin, obviously the Cumberland Heights Issuers Council, this is something that they've been working on, and I know you have meetings, weekly meetings with everyone, so involved, but kind of give us a run through from your perspective. Is this, if the board chooses to do so, are the documents ready to go, and give us kind of run through what's before the board today from a document standpoint, please?
Absolutely. And so just to give the board full context, so we have been in weekly communications with this working group, having weekly calls, working very closely with the development team, with bond counsel and all the other legal counsels as far as NDIC. And for the board's knowledge as well, too, I know this structure is very unique and complex. This is a similar structure that is put in place for student housing currently. So this current structure was utilized by the development team at the University of Tennessee, currently at the University of Memphis, and currently a few other states around the nation going on currently right now. As we know, the need is great for all housing, particularly student housing. So although this, 501c3, development deal seems kind of, I guess, nuanced, which it is, it's a proven method. These deals have closed. The University of Memphis deal is getting close to closing. The one at the University of Tennessee has closed already, and so that bond has closed. So I just wanted to give the board that context that while seeming, unique and out of the ordinary, this kind of method of structuring is a proven methodology to get done.
Thanks for that.
And what is
I'm
used.
sorry for interrupting.
Absolutely.
Quick question is it NDIC? Are you with NDIC?
Indeed.
Yes, ma'am.
What deals have you all done with other universities prior to this one?
This will be our first one.
Okay, got it, okay.
And again, Corbin, just make sure, so NDIC is the borrower.
Yes.
There's no recourse to this board, should this board approve the bonds, and obviously because TSU is not the borrower, no recourse to them related to the bonds. Okay.
Yes.
And Cobblestone, what other university deals have you guys done?
There's no recourse to Cobblestone with respect to the bond.
No,
I'm
she's
talking
asking
the
about,
structure. What, our issuers
We've
council
done
is
about
speaking.
6.
Say it again?
We've done about 6.
About 6, which other universities?
Cleveland State University, we've done a deal there, University of Florida, okay? We've done a deal with Wayne State University, and then also another deal down in North Carolina State.
Speak up for me. I heard Cleveland State.
North Carolina State.
North Carolina
Yeah,
State.
so
What else? I said, would you?
Cleveland State, University of Wayne State University. We have done some at Michigan State University.
Okay.
And then we've done some at University of Florida.
What was the last one?
University of Florida.
Gainesville.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No problem at all. All questions are welcome, for sure. And 2 more quick points of order, if I may, Mr. Chair,
Sure.
just to help dispel any, concerns the board may have. One, with the TSU board, yes, they have met. With the TSU board, just speaking practically from my experience, when you have a vacation or a transition of board members, legally, the first point, whatever agreements were executed by the board, which was duly adopted by valid board members, so that's going to be legal and binding. So speaking from my experience, I have not seen a new board, come in and speak in support of a power project that has been approved by a prior board. This is a very unique and huge project, I get that. But Dr. Glenda Glover did offer her support through a letter, and, we all know how that school and the students there and the board feels about her, new and old board feels about her. And that was just their way of saying that they still support this project, what they can do. It is a very sticky situation right now, so as a new board member, I wouldn't want to individually come and speak on behalf of something, knowing what just happened. So, in my opinion, with my experience, that's probably why the new board wasn't so eager to attend. And just wanted to give that board that kind of just other, way of thinking with it as well, too. Not that they're against the project, they're just proceeding cautiously right now. And from what I know, this is a big project, but this is not at the top of their list. Recovering scholarship money and things of that sort are at the top of their list right now. So saying that they just met once and they did not attend, I don't want the board to think that they're not in support of this project. So last point I'll say too with the dormitories, me going to the University of Tennessee and graduating there, I can speak that the student housing is not great. They're over 50 plus years old. So I know when I was a student, as you all can relate, we wanted to go to the new and best thing. So I don't think, based on our experience working on these other deals that, having the capacity or the occupancy rather, that will be an issue with the new housing. They will probably have a long waiting list, I'm sure, with that. So as far as, and that priority does go pursuant to the documentation to TSU students first. I guess to kind of dispel that concern, I don't think that it will be a lack thereof of TSU students applying to be in this housing project. So with those opening remarks though, Mr. Chair, any questions at all for the board before I hop into the final bond resolution?
I would say, let's hop into that, and
Sure.
then certainly there may be some questions. Again,
Absolutely.
I would just say similar in concept documents that came before us in March for Cumberland Housing, but yes, go through that for us, please, and then I'll turn it over to my colleagues for questions.
Absolutely. So before you, board, for your consideration for approval today, you have the final bond resolution that's authorizing all documents, instruments, and other actions and matters necessary with the approval of this bond financing. Is to remind the board is a not to exceed $180 million par amount.
And can you stop?
Yes.
Sorry. And that's because the documents are substantially completed, but the final amount has not been exact yet. And we did the same thing for Cumberland Housing.
Okay. And as it was said earlier, just as Cumberland Heights was, this is going to be a private placement. This is going to be a negotiated private sale and placement with Mesereau. I know they're here today as well too. And approving all other necessary matters in connection therewith. So that is what this bond resolution does. If you go down, I won't do as I did the clause by clause for the last one. I'll spare you guys that. But I did want to point out some specific.
We have it, so.
Right, yeah. So I did want to point out some specific clauses for your just edification and just knowledge. So if you go to page 2, just so you know, the TEFRA hearing was done in compliance with the IRS and the regs, the Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act of 1982, Section 147F. That was done on March 4th, 2024. As I said, this deal will be a private placement, and as Mr. Jones had alluded to, this deal will be marketed to a specific pool of accredited investors who have experience in investing in matters, well, not matters, but different finances and investment opportunities as this. And the 3 series of bonds are, very compatible to what these other deals and these other universities have done. This will be a fully tax-exempt matter. Page 3, as the chair pointed out earlier, these bonds are non-recourse to the board, non-recourse to the state of Tennessee, the metropolitan government, and thereof. If the revenues aren't sufficient to pay the debt service payments, you can't come sue the board, can't come sue metro government, can't come sue the state of Tennessee. And of course, as an investor, a sophisticated investor, accredited investor, you would know that when a private placement versus a public offering, with a private placement, what happens, you execute what's called a big boy letter, but it's an investment letter that is executed between the placement agent and the actual investor, and which lays out all the terms and conditions for that said investment. At the bottom of page 3 is what Jamari had, the ShareLink file that Jamari had created. In the efforts of saving trees, we did not print all those out today. That's over 1,000 pages.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, absolutely. So, that is the indenture, the form of the bonds, bond placement agreement, the preliminary project placement memorandum, loan agreement, and the actual note.
We do have one printed copy if anyone really wants to read through all of those.
And as the chair stated, you are approving these documents in substantially final form. So they will be finalized when we actually get the actual numbers, understand who the actual purchasers of the bonds will be, and things of that sort.
And what's the official entity again? Because I think it's a little bit different. NDIC, it's NDIC 1, is it?
Yes, NDIC TSU Project 1 LLC.
I think you guys explained the last time, the nonprofit formed in Virginia, NDIC formed a for-profit LLC here in Tennessee, and that's the entity.
They formed a nonprofit LLC.
Say it again?
They formed a nonprofit LLC.
Oh, a nonprofit LLC, okay, got it.
Tennessee.
Okay, so that's the entity in the
And it's a
document.
501c3 also.
Got it, and that's the entity in the document you're talking about right now.
Yes.
And page 4, Section 1 just says that this project is within the broad statutory authority and public purpose of the IDB, which it is. Section 2, wanted to point out to you all for your edification, 3rd paragraph, this is a very big deal, a lot of ongoing obligations with everything. So the IDB, of course, does not have a full-time staff to accommodate said obligations. So the IDB is going to assign all obligations, ongoing responsibilities to the trustee, which is going to be U.S. Bank Trust Company National Association, who serves as trustee for several of these issuances, so they're well equipped to do that. When you go to section 3, 4, 5, 6, this just kind of breaks down the substantially final documents that you will be approving today. And with section 5 on page 6, also wanted to point out to the board, typically with deals of this magnitude, you have what's called a continuing disclosure agreement that is entered into typically between, the borrower or some dissemination agent, sometimes the issuer. Again, the issuer does not have a full-time staff. What we did was make sure we put the appropriate language in the documentation to assign those rights to U.S. Bank, who will also serve as the dissemination agent for all required disclosure that has to be made on an annual, semi-annual basis for this project. If you go to section 9 and 10, section 9 just authorizes the board, particularly the chair and the secretary, to execute all documentations needed to finalize and close this transaction with the bond documents, tax agreement, IRS Form 8038, things of that sort. Again, Section 10, we have this throughout the documents a lot, the limited liability of everybody and the non-recourse to the issuer as well, too. We make sure we put that all throughout the documentation. Section 11 goes and attests to that this was all done in compliance with the Tennessee Open Meeting Act. All meetings, all approvals, things of that sort. Last two things, Mr. Chair. Section 12, what you did not see for the last one is a declaration of official intent. This is typical in these type deals. As Mr. Jones said, they have been doing work on this project for the last 2 years. So pursuant to the Treasury regulations 1.52-2, it lays out the reimbursable expenses that are eligible for reimbursement with expenses that are made towards, you know, the completion of the project. So that's all that this does and puts in this resolution. And that is all I wanted to point out to the board. And as Mr. Jones said, the anticipated closing timeline is on or before May 30th of this month. So if the board sees fit to approve today, then we will follow that timeline. But with the review from our firm, working with Metro Legal and Director Brown, this financing is within the purview of the policies and procedures of the board, and we do recommend approval.
All right, with that, great discussion today, a lot, so I appreciate everyone's feedback. Are there any specific questions for Corbin related to the bond documents at this point that we just kind of reviewed?
I think you pretty much covered everything, thoughts that I had concerning the project. So, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Anybody here to my left? Obviously, a lot of, went through it very high level.
Approval.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I want to get
You just wanted him to say it twice.
Do they recommend approval? Oh. I ain't taking all the smoke by myself.
The smoke, that's funny.
Quick question. You mentioned if approved today, on target for closing by May 30th.
Yes.
If not approved today, and we make a motion to call a special meeting within a week or so that we have our concerns addressed about the partnership with TSU, would that slow down towards your closing date of May 30th?
Absolutely.
How many days could it be?
How many months?
It would probably,
No, it would kill the deal.
it would likely kill the deal.
Okay. All right.
And with no possibility for any other, I'm not in the bond market, so help me out. So no possibility for
No,
any.
because our lease,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Because the underground, there's several obligations that would trip up that we could not meet.
All right. Well, don't you like serving on this board? Decisions.
Yeah, that's a good one today.
All right. Well, again, great discussion today. I think we've had, asked the questions we need to ask, and now it's time to decide how this board would like to do.
Hey, I got one more question.
Sure.
Going back to the rent question, are there any covenants in the documents about who sets the rent, what the rent rate would be? Are there any covenants related to the rental rate?
There's effectively I've drafted the bond documents as bond counsel. There's effectively two sets of covenants, one set of covenants and one set of legal rules, which are federal tax rules. The first, which is the federal tax rules, is that NDIC TSU Project 1 LLC, a Tennessee nonprofit LLC, is a qualified 501c3 entity. And because of that, the guardrails say it can't act like a for-profit developer and set sky-high rents. Secondly, there's three things. Secondly, in order to get the bonds marketed, based on the market study and the documentation that's been received by the placement agent Mesereau so far, they need to charge rents which are going to work so that you can get it 100% leased up, hopefully. And so that's going to keep the rents down because you have a lower interest rate with the bonds, not trying to be too technical. Once the project is open, aside from the 501c3 mission and the effort to set the rates as low as possible that work with the bond financing, because that's their legal mission as a qualified 501c3, if in the future the deal's ever going south, there's rate covenants that say if for some reason you're not charging enough and making enough revenue to pay the debt service on the bonds, you need to hire a consultant and figure out what to do. So the initial interest rates are really set based on the 501c3 charitable mission of NDIC, and that it works with the interest rate that you pay on the bonds.
But ultimately, NDIC will decide what they want to charge.
Ultimately, NDIC will decide what they want to charge. And to echo and maybe add to what Mr. Carpenter has said today, if NDIC decided to charge market rates that are really high and ignore the affiliation agreement with TSU, and that became a different kind of project, not only would the interest rate on the bonds go up, they'd get sued.
Substantially, the interest rate.
I'd get sued. They'd get sued. Everybody on this side that came in today would be sued because there would be investors who would have claimed tax exempt status on bonds.
For the bonds,
For the years before that bad event happened. And they'd be saying, wait a minute, we're coming after all of you for not following the documents.
Plus the IRS is gonna go
But
after
I'm just asking what's in the documents then that requires that.
The document does not require a specific rental rate. We are relying on the federal tax prohibition on them overcharging TSU students.
Like home rules. When you go and look at, normally you look at incomes, like you deal with families, look at the income and you go to THGA and get the income rents, and you can go by the home rules for. But there's no home dollars, of course, in this project. It's just bond money. So I guess the question is, how are you determining, what mechanism are you using to determine what the rent should be? And if you look at THGA and home rules, are they going above fair market rate for, I guess, a one-bedroom unit or something like that? This is kind of new territory as well.
that's okay.
Yeah, it's very new, and it's like trying to figure out, we're talking about dormitories, we're not talking about houses.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to figure that part. So I understand your plight, trying to figure out.
Right.
Yeah.
If I may,
Yeah,
so
sure.
with that,
Yeah.
I mean, they just do a feasibility and see what the comparable, rates would be, one, for the market that they sit in.
Right.
But two, with other student housing facilities within the region, the nation, and things of that sort.
Okay.
And, just legalese aside, I mean, practically speaking, if you're a student and you can't afford to stay there, you're not gonna stay there.
Right, that's true.
In Nashville, you may not have any other option.
Well, but that also, but I mean, an important part is what he said is that if we run into, because of how our bonds and everything are set up, if we deviate and let's just say randomly, we decide we're gonna raise the rent and students don't stay there, then that impacts the entire deal. We can't service the bond anymore.
Right.
And so the entire deal falls apart at that point. So we really can't do it. It's the basis. It's almost like a firm fixed price contract. If we deviate from that and it impacts, occupancy, it impacts anything, then that impacts us, and we will get sued by the investors that are purchasing these bonds.
Not only that, the IRS is gonna come out.
IRS is gonna come out.
Let's not forget about that part.
Yeah, for the tax exempt.
Yeah, the tax exemption part, yeah.
So,
For the housing experts in the room, in our bond experts, there are many. So typically, we've been looking at deals in housing that are 60% AMI? What are we looking at?
And I think that's the hardest part now, because we're not actually dealing with a house.
Right.
I understand, but
Yeah,
it's still
it's
a
like-
student trying to find a place to pay
Right,
rent
so I'm
to
trying to figure
live,
out
so it's
how
no
much you
different
charge
for
for a
them.
bed. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
But it's still no
hard
different
because
for the
students really don't have income, so that's why it's difficult.
Yeah.
You don't have student income, and
Right.
students are also leasing these rooms for 6 months windows, which is not a full lease
Right.
that a traditional house. So it's hard to put those into traditional housing terms.
Right, so thank you for that. So I guess what I'm getting at, still going back to her question though, setting the rates so that make sure they truly are affordable, whatever that definition is for the students at that time. So I'm not sure we
There's
have
no
a full
income
answer
limits
there
anywhere
yet.
in college, right?
No, you can't use the
income,
traditional.
so there's no rent limits or anything.
Say it again.
I was thinking about there's no income limits or rent limits set out by any
I
colleges that
understand that.
says. So it's kind of like there's no guidelines to go by.
Right.
Well, these nonprofit developer, y'all should come up with that. Good idea.
We don't do dormitories. We do houses. Yeah, and that's
But
the
again,
hard part.
going
Yeah.
back to her question.
Right.
So I'm trying to think of it from the perspective of
Yeah.
a student that's
Correct.
looking for a place to live, who's right now looking at market rate and whatever they can find in the market. This is supposed to be creating a solution that's affordable, so that they don't have to go out looking around Nashville trying to find a place to live they can afford, based on their scholarships or student loans that they're getting, and it's across the street. So
Now,
they may not have to have a
Now,
car.
something did come to me.
So that still goes back to her question.
SRO.
How are the rates going to be set, and are they going to be set to make sure the students can afford them?
We could use maybe the SRO model, which is single room occupancy. You know, you can have up to 7 rooms in a single house, and usually that goes by like SSI income or something like that. So there is, I think, through THDA, income, well, again, it's income.
Him, right here, he said no.
Yeah, that's why we need the
I'm
experts
trying to
to
give an
tell us
idea
how
of
this
what we
works.
could use as a model.
Just the way
Yeah.
that this is normally done in the
Yeah.
market is you do a market feasibility, as your council mentioned, and you set the rates based off the recommendations of the market feasibility.
Right.
And
Which
that's-
you provided.
Yes.
Which we have.
And that's what's being done here.
Which I'm familiar with, that is done. I was just giving you an example, if you're wanting to look at something, you can look at the SRO unit, single room occupancy, and there's a limit on that.
And that's what's been done here.
Rent limit, yeah.
Yeah, and so, great question.
Yeah.
So why don't you respond to, what you have to say to that about the rates and stuff? That's a
Yes,
valid
Chair.
question from the board.
Yeah, the rates will be based off of the feasibility study and our ability to service the debt. That's it. You know, we're not gonna make a random, hey, we need to raise the rent. It's only gonna be, we'll call in a third party, if we have problems servicing the debt for any reason. And typically the big thing with that would be occupancy or something along those lines, but right now there's not. That would be the only reason. All we are looking to do is to service the debt for the bond and continue to do our charitable purpose.
And of course, you don't know what that amount would be at this point.
Right, because we haven't.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, until you get through it.
So we're following them.
Okay, yeah, I know this is like a case study.
Yeah, market feasibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, appreciate.
I'm sorry, I took over your question.
No,
didn't I?
no, no.
So, board member Hannah, not sure if there's more to that, but did you have a follow-up or anything? I want to make sure we get your question answered.
No.
Okay. All right, so I appreciate everyone's discussion today. A lot to consider. We know the timing,
Can I ask
so.
one more question? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I won't say nothing behind her question either.
No, I don't, maybe, ask a question.
She's for the
while
housing
we're here.
expert.
Oh, okay, I'm not trying to frustrate anybody.
No,
So now I'm gonna make a speech. So at the end of the day, it has been national news, the issues with housing at TSU. At the end of the day, it's national news what happened to the board at TSU. It's been national news about what happened to the president. It's been national news about the audit that was done last year, which, this is just my personal opinion, does not equate to what's happening to TSU. Because that audit to me was a normal, regular audit. And I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying that, but my name is LaTanya Channel, and that's just LaTanya speaking. And I have no connection to TSU other than being a Davidson County resident who has happened to, over the last 10 years, met a lot of TSU graduates and had a great relationship with Dr. Glover through the work that we did with small businesses. So let me just say that. So second of all, I asked a question. If this was held off a week, you said it would kill the deal. Would 2 days kill the deal?
That's not enough time to do another meeting.
Yeah.
Right.
Possibly, because this is an urgent situation.
We gotta have a
You
notice.
have to have 7 days to publicly
At a
notice.
minimum.
Good point. You're
And
right.
also, may I
7 days would
say,
kill it.
as
you,
far as the
Jamar.
marketability, if approved today, they want to immediately go out and market these
And
bonds.
7 days would kill it too?
It would. At this point, every day matters, and they have to have these bonds placed, purchasers in line that they can close by the 30th.
Ma'am, we were planning to go shovel ready in June. We have people ready to start on this project right now, and we needed to have this meeting that we're having today in April.
Understand.
So
Yeah.
just put it in context.
All right, well, lots of decisions. Again, I really respect the board members today. Really thoughtful discussion, and appreciate your service. So, but now's the time, so we'll figure out how we move forward. If the board is so inclined, I'll entertain a motion to approve the final authorizing bond resolutions for NDIC TSU Project 1 LLC.
Move approval.
All right, so we have a motion on the board from Board Member Davis. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second by Board Member Hannah, so properly seconded. Any discussion?
One final discussion.
I was just gonna say, I felt satisfied with the explanation. I mean, been looking forward to this housing project. Definitely hear and share concerns with everybody, but I felt like
All
I
right.
was satisfied with the explanation.
And I'm gonna comment too, I understand when it comes to you doing your capital stack and you getting with banks and when you miss some dates, it will affect the project. Been there, definitely understand. And I think for the board, it's just really understanding, this is so new, even to me, how this is working. But I see it's for the betterment. And so for that being said, I do approve, I will approve.
Well,
Well, that's right, we ain't done it yet.
So we have a motion on the table. Yeah, in a second. So Board Member Davis made a motion. We had a property second by Board Member Hand, and now we're at discussion. And
That's right,
did you have a comment?
Yeah, just
Go
as I
ahead.
mentioned that the IDB is at the intersection of community and Davidson County. We do have something at the Urban League called the Red Academy. It is an academy of real estate developers who actually presented this morning before the Industrial Development Board. They are not in student housing, but please be aware that there are some wonderful nonprofits, and there's one particular nonprofit that is preparing real estate developers, and they may be interested in helping with this deal whenever it happens and supporting it as subcontractors.
Thank you. Aron, when I invited you, did you think you got in the plug a lot today?
And again, Nigel invited the Red Academy, not me.
I think you'll come back. I'm thinking you'll be open to coming back again, I suspect. All right. So appreciate that. So we're at discussion. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay.
Nay.
All right, maybe
Abstentions.
do we have abstentions?
You may just want to count.
All right, let's try that
Roll
just
call.
to make sure.
Roll
Roll
call.
call. Yep.
Do a roll call.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Roll call.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Board Member Wright.
In favor.
Board-
Aye.
All right.
Same.
All right, so we have 3 ayes. All right, Board Member Rodriguez,
Abstain.
Board Member or Vice Chair Johnson, excuse me.
I'm gonna have to go with no on this, guys. Need
So
a
we
little
have-
info.
1 no. Board Member Channel.
No.
All right, so we have 1, 2, 3. For Metro Legal, we have 3 approvals. Is that enough? We have 2 no's, 1 abstention to this point.
You might want to participate in this vote.
You have to vote.
You have to vote, Nigel.
No pressure. No pressure.
Is that because of our 7 or?
Yeah.
Come on, Nigel.
Oh, because we have 6
Yeah,
people.
6 people.
Yeah.
And it's half and half at this
Tie-break.
point.
Oh, you finally do a tie break?
Yeah, buddy.
You need to take a break?
Oh no! Anybody want to change their vote? No. Woo.
Get them notes ready, Anthony.
Yeah. All right. Chair will vote to approve. Difficult decision, but I think ultimately, it's for me personally, it's student housing. TSU is not the one that's taking on the debt. It's NDIC, and our council has said that everything is in order. And this is the issuers council that we hired as a board. So I'll vote to approve, but really appreciate it. Great discussion today. All right.
I hope you all reach out to the current board of TSU to make sure you won't have any issues going forward, that they list this as preferred housing for the students, and that it's beneficial to the students at TSU.
Yep.
And also reach out to find out if there are subcontractors that can assist you with this effort to a person who happens to be sitting in the corner, or Ron Thompson.
Yeah.
And hoping that you'll use local contractors and hire local Davidson County employees.
Yep, that's got me on record, and for me, I only think I also add to, I think that for me the timing piece was huge. Obviously, there's a lot of work that's been done on this project, and in a perfect world, maybe postpone or defer, but understand timing. So
That's the needle movement right there, yeah.
yeah. So with that, the motion does carry, and then
So
yes.
4 nays, 4 yays,
4
2
yays.
nays, and 1 extension. Okay.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
got it. Just wanna make sure the record's clear.
All right, well, motion carried on that, so I appreciate everyone, and then we're coming up on time here, lunchtime. Just very quickly, Chair's report, won't spend a lot of time on this. You may have seen, so I'll just point this out to you if you have not. Oracle, there's some information came out about Oracle. Obviously, this board approved a TIF deal back in 2021 for the River North project. Some news that came out a couple of weeks ago that they're now planning for Oracle for that to be their worldwide headquarters. And that was announced. That was kind of done in kind of an impromptu way in an interview with their founder. So feel free to Google that and look it up.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Was that post Do Better? Oracle?
So Oracle was not within the Do Better scope.
It was or was not?
It was after, but it was not within the scope.
It was after, but the incentive was not tied to the Do Better legislation.
Because it was infrastructure, it was TIF deal.
Got it.
And then second item, this board also several years ago, the last pilot we did was for the Ernest Rip Patton Transit Center in North Nashville. We're doing, from what I understand, there'll potentially be a grand opening. Several of us, I know myself and board member Cordova went to the groundbreaking a couple years ago. There's tentatively going to be a grand opening ceremony coming up late Q2 or early or some point early Q3 it sounds like. So we'll make sure, just like Jamari sent it out for Cumberland Housing, we'll send that out in case you want to go to the grand opening. Again, that was the last pilot deal, payment in lieu of property tax abatement deal that this board did. So really excited about that and the connectivity that will provide for North Nashville. And then as far as schedule next board meeting, we'll look to have our next board meeting in June or July. At this time, we do anticipate also, just as follow-up, Dominium. Back in February, we had 3 projects come before us, obviously 2 we've now approved final bond resolutions for, and Cumberland is obviously closed. We just approved this housing project for NDIC. And then, if you recall, Dominium for their project at 900 Cleveland Park that I've had Jamari and the team send pictures about throughout the process. We approved some tax-exempt bonds for them several years ago. Again, increasing construction costs, they had to come back. This board did approve the inducement resolution back in February. We do anticipate they'll be coming back to us here within the next month or 2 for the final inducement on that. And then this board would vote on that. So with that, really appreciate everyone's time today. It is here right at 12:07, and I want to thank all of our guests today. I want to thank Ron Thompson for staying as well, Vice President with the Urban League and Red Academy. Thank you to Metro Legal. Thank you to Jamari Brown and Metro team for getting all the documents together. Thank you to the Carpenter Law Firm. And most importantly, thank you to my fellow board members for your time and insightful discussions. Really appreciate everyone's diverse opinions and passion today. So with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Everybody have a fantastic day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Great work.
It wasn't me. Yes.
Oh, and a reminder on parking passes. Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Appreciate you coming back. Thank you. Okay.